Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. In this special format bonus episode, I'm chatting with Ron Thurston, Vice President of Stores for Intermix, best-selling author of the great book Retail Pride, and opening keynote speaker at the RCC Retail HR conference coming up March 25th. I asked Ron for 2 starts and 1 stop based on what he has learned and experienced over the past year of the COVID era. Let's listen in now. Ron, welcome back to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me today.
Well, it's a bit of a different format. You and I have had a longer form conversation on both the Voice of Retail and Remarkable Retail podcasts. This format's a bit different. You're speaking at the Retail Council of Canada's HR Forum coming up. First of all, tell us a bit about yourself, and then I'm going to ask you 2 starts and 1 stop, and then a little bit about what you'll be talking about at the conference. But let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So my name's Ron Thurston. I'm the author of Retail Pride, the guide to celebrating your accidental career. It came out in October of 2020, and my goal with the book was really to celebrate the millions of people who do the work in stores every single day, and to really encourage the pride that everyone shows and demonstrates, but would love to see it in writing. And so I've had such a great time talking about retail, celebrating our industry, the people that work in it, the joy that we have. And so that's part 1 of my jobs. The other is I'm the vice president of stores at Intermix, which is it's the largest multi-brand women's retailer in the U.S. today.
What I've always liked about our discussions is you have this merge of the experience of an operator. Like my favorite saying of yours, I think it's your favorite saying as well, is Saturday's my favorite day, right? It's go day. Clear out the distraction, clear out the clutter. This is the day where we will be successful. So I think that's what I really enjoy about your background and what you bring to us. So, what we want to talk about today is these, based on what you've been going through and what the industry's been going through. You're in apparel, so apparel's been struggling a little more than home improvement, but very innovative, right? It's trying to do different things, whether that's e-commerce, that blend, the store's open, the store's closed. How do I get people excited? Tell us over the past, what's it, almost been a year now of the COVID era. This isn't a history lesson, but 2 things that you would recommend the listeners start doing based on what you've learned over the past 12 months. And then I'll ask you something that maybe if they're doing it today or what you see people doing, they should stop or just move on, was part of the past, and just let it go and do something different. Let's start there.
Sure. So start, I think one of the many great things that has happened in the year in our industry is the immersion of incredible technology. So every day I'm seeing new ideas come forward, whether it's live shopping platform, either like one-to-one or one-to-many, different chat functions. So recreating potential in-store experiences through websites that may connect you directly with in-store associates, chat functions where you can text with the store, you can text to pay, text to write reviews. There are great technologies in clienteling, outreach and development, appointment setting for retail. There's great technology. I actually was just exploring one with a vendor, being able to identify the gender and the age of customers walking by the store or even inside, about kind of who they are, why they're spending time. So the start is really, continue to explore, learn, take those calls when you think it may not be something that's right for you and your business today. I think it's always great to know what's happening in the industry. So that's definitely a start.
So you're clearly a fan of exploring technology. I mean, you and I have also talked before about you have to be careful the technology doesn't create a wall between you and the customer, that it's an enabler, not a decelerator of the relationship that you need to have with the customers in front of you, right?
Yeah, it's really, I think at every touch point, how does this enhance the experience or enhance the customer experience or the employee experience? And if it doesn't fit the filter of either one of those, then it's likely not right for your business. But if you say, I can have an incredible customer experience that is very human and very kind of filled with emotion and empathy and curiosity, yet very tech enabled on the back end that makes it efficient, and maybe the product ships directly from a warehouse or another store. So you can enable product, enable things like contactless pay, but have the same intimate experiences either on your website or in person. All of that, it enhances your brand, and it enhances the best of retail. And that's really what I love about what's happening in the tech space. Not at all to replace, but to enhance.
Right. And that's that squaring of the circle, right? I talk to a lot of smaller independent merchants, and I know the way that you run your store, it's like each store is like an indie merchant, right? You're part of a big company, but each store has to thrive in its own trading area with its own customers. And I think there's a bit of fear that technology gets in the way of a relationship, and then it just makes you like everybody else. Like it just washes out the experience a bit too much. I guess that's that thing you've got to really, focus on. As you said, that lens about, does this add value to the experience? Yeah.
Right. And so imagine, you're having this great interaction with someone, and then you had a question about product or a question about inventory levels. And, I love when, associate can pull their iPhone out of their back pocket and say, well, let me just check for you. Oh, I see that. Apple does that really well. I'd like to buy this phone. Fantastic. They pull out their own device, and someone from the back brings it out. The conversation continues. You can talk about features and benefits and Apple Care, and you're doing all of this very human work that can only happen in person, but it's all tech enabled on the back end. And that feels very much like the best version of.
Right on. And for the listeners out there, Ron, you spent a fair bit of time at Apple, so you know of what you speak. Right?
I do.
You've lived that experience in the go-go days.
They're much better today than they were 10 years ago, but yes, they're one of the best. They still are.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, that's a great start off. Okay, number 2 in terms of things retailers should start doing.
I think that has been at some point kind of when we think about cost and the decline of retail footfall traffic and business, there's been a lot of cost that has been stripped out of stores, and specifically payroll. And what I would say is start now with the anticipation and the optimism that we all have about 2021 and beyond, to start now and go back and add the cost, add the people, add the experiences, in the things that felt like they were a little more optional last year, or to just minimize expense. Now is the time to go back in, and the reason I say this is that we now have the opportunity, as people get back out and begin to travel and back in stores, is you have the opportunity now to wow them and to be the best version of the retail business that you have built. And if it then doesn't have an incredible group of people that work in it who are highly motivated and engaged and proud of what they do, and that there's a kind of a lack of service or a lack of experience, what's going to happen is the customer's going to say, well, fall back maybe into the habit of 2020, which was buy it online. Right. What I would really encourage is start this idea of shifting some revenue back into stores, but also with the people that do that work and create those connections. And don't be afraid to invest on the front end, because now we have the opportunity now to do it really well.
Right on. So both risk and opportunity for retailers listening, right? The risk of, you got to come out of the blocks strong, in other words, which is important as people start to come back to the store and remind the best of the stores and leave the rest behind. All right. Speaking about leaving the rest behind, what should what should the listeners maybe do less of or stop doing that they might have done before or that you've seen lately?
This is, it's kind of my own personal mantra often, but, I personally want to stop defending brick and mortar as a viable resource. Mm-hmm. And, I do think I've spent a lot of time explaining brick and mortar retail or talking about its importance in a portfolio or how it builds brand or how it builds loyalty. best customers. We're at the point now where we've all learned the value of brick and mortar retail to your portfolio. Because when you didn't have it, you can also understand loyalty of customers shifts. Their options are really wide, or in many cases too wide. And the brick and mortar kind of version of your brand puts your curated, edited, best of, here's what we think are the most important options of our website into brick and mortar, and kind of limit choice and add personal experience. And from what I've seen and read, this is the time where we want to reinvigorate those brands and to think about how we can rebuild all of our business back. But what I want to stop defending the importance of this and encourage the growth and the investment, as I had said in the start.
Did you ever imagine when you started writing your book that you'd become an evangelist for brick and mortar retail? I think it feels like you started as, look, retail is a great place to be. But how many interviews have you done like this? Like, you didn't do a book tour, but you must have done a lot of interviews. I think you've done a lot. And it's interesting, right? It's like, how many times do we have to say it again? Brick and mortar retail matters. But, anyway, you do a great job. You're such a great ambassador for retail. So, what are you going to be talking about on the stage coming up on the 25th, the virtual stage?
Virtual stage. So I'm going to share one of my favorite parts of the book, which is why we love working in retail. And there are many, a couple of my favorites, which is number one, is we bring joy. And when you think about, again, brick and mortar retail done well with incredible people who are really proud to do what they do and the brand you work for, you bring joy to the experience that nothing else can do. Technology can't bring joy. It might bring some entertainment, but I think of joy as being very human. And, that you've thoroughly feel like the money you've just spent is appreciated. You've learned about maybe you learned something about what you just purchased. You've shared it with your friends and family. You've promoted the brand. You become loyal to that brand. You come back and visit them again. Just that word joy gives me joy to talk about. But to think about, that's one of the top 10 reasons why we love working in retail. And this, I'll give you another one that I talked with a group of people today about, is we create friendships that last decades. Mm-hmm. And as someone who's been in this business for decades, I have dozens and dozens of really close friends who I've known for 20, 30 years that all started in retail. And I'm probably one of the few that's left that's still doing it because I'm obsessed with it. But those friendships that are often established in the retail environment are one of the reasons why we work in this business. It's like we go through these experiences together and we're friends for life. And so those are just a couple of the two of them that I'm going to speak about. But this is, when you have a real understanding of why we love working this, or if you don't work in it yourself, why others do. I think particularly HR professionals, then you can help support them and encourage their retail careers.
Well, fantastic. You're the opening keynote. I have the pleasure of introducing you. I'm the MC for the event, so you and I will meet again. Will I get the pleasure of introducing you? But for now, let's leave it there. Ron, thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the virtual stage soon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks for tuning in to today's special bonus episode of The Voice of Retail. Be sure and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, industry news, insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating and review, as it really helps us grow so we continue to get amazing guests onto the show. If you are a retail HR professional, you don't want to miss the RCC Retail Human Resources Forum, March 25th. Learn more and register at rcchrconference.ca or on retailcouncil.org. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of LeBlanc Company Inc. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website, leblanc.co. Until next time, stay safe and have a great week.